keep talking about in the chat. You guys keep talking about this whole Gunna thing, Gunna thing. The video has just been released. Gunna is officially free. He's walked out of it wasn't Fulton County. He was in like another jail, but he's walked out of jail. There's a video of him walking out now. It's interesting. I see him with a woman. I'm not too sure who this woman is. She definitely got a BBL. You know what I mean? I don't know if he caught a new one in jail. But anyway, he's officially
out for plea, Gunna.
He's officially free.
He's not making any statements right now, guys. Thank you.
He hops in a Maybach truck.
No, we have a...
And he takes off. He's officially free. I don't know if you read up on that yet, or we could definitely give you some time to like look at it. Apparently, the plea he took, he's getting 1 year in jail, plus 4 years of his sentence being suspended, and the 1 year got commuted to 6 or 7 months, which is time served. People are really saying, what the fuck? I thought you guys had him on a racketeering charge. Like, you know, that's pretty much equivalent. Those gang charges are pretty much the equivalent of a racketeering charge. People are shocked that, hey, you get a 6-month stint with a suspended sentence. And let me look up the plea once again, because we saw it before. There's a name of the plea I've never seen before. However, I will say this. The lawyer that is Gunna's lawyer was the same lawyer that represented T.I. for his federal case, right? Even though it's not a federal case, but his federal case that had to do with the silencers, like all these things he had, all the weapons, and that person got him a year and a day. If you could get T.I. a year and a day, you get this guy for like basically a RICO charge, 6 months. Like, Jesus Christ. Let me look.
Yeah, so I could comment on this while you pull up that plea agreement. So here's the thing. Typically, the first thing I want to say is that state racketeering charges are much different than federal racketeering charges. The state of Georgia is is a state that does have its own racketeering charges from a state perspective versus the federal ones. The federal ones are the ones that pull people away for a very long time. Now, as far as this racketeering case, I am familiar with it. I did cover the YSL case as well. Gunna had some of the least charges on the indictment. They got him for like, you know, general racketeering activity, etc. Like very like boilerplate type legal language on his charges. But for him to be able to get a plea agreement, get out on 6 months, etc. Yo, I hate to say it, man. I'd be shocked if he didn't cooperate. I'll just say it all the way. I'd be shocked if he didn't cooperate. Especially given the fact that all his co-defendants are still in jail.
The timing was weird to me. The timing was super weird to me. So, and I'm sure you know I'm not gonna put you on the spot for this because I know you like to be very prepared on stuff. But apparently, and this I'm gonna read it. This is via WSB TV. It says a rapper entered a negotiated plea known as the Alford plea, in which a defendant doesn't admit he committed the crime, but acknowledges that it's in his best interest to plead guilty. And I'm wondering, okay, this helps Gunna, but how does this help the state? He doesn't have to admit he committed the crime, but he acknowledges that it's best that he had to plead guilty. How does this help the state when you have 27 other defendants awaiting a possible trial that you claim you have 300 witnesses?
Yeah, it doesn't help at all. And
that
Alford plea, it's rare. It's not common. You know, so the fact that he took a unique kind of plea like that, the fact that a lot of his co-defendants are still in, no one's really been released on anything. And just the level of the case. The thing, let's be honest here. They want Young Thug. That's who they want. They want to pin. They want to. He's probably more than likely the top guy that they want to go after because he's a leader of the organization. So they want to go after him. And how are you going to go after him? Well, you're going to have to go after someone else in the organization that is close enough to him to be able to give you actual real information, but at the same time, not high enough where, oh, okay, we can't afford to let this guy off easy. Does that make sense? So, like, I'll give you an example. Like 6ix9ine, right? I covered his case too.
Yeah.
The reason why 6ix9ine was such a fantastic cooperator is because he was in a position where he was financing a lot of the situations, right? He had the money, so therefore that immediately put him in touch and in contact with the higher level guys. And then at the same time, he was low enough where if we give him no time, it's not that big a deal because we really want to go after these other dudes, right? We want to go after who is we want to go after Shoddy, we want to go after Mel Murda, we want to go after all these dudes, the high-ranking blood guys. So whenever you're building a racketeering case, a gang investigation, some type of case, drug trafficking, right? A case where you have multiple conspirators working together to commit a multitude of different crimes, especially racketeering, you always want to go for guys that are fourth or fifth removed from the top guys because they have enough information, right, on the top guys because they're close enough to them. But however, they're far enough where if they get less time, it's not that big of a deal because they're not the ones ordering murders. They're not the ones necessarily directing things. They're just kind of in the middle. So Gunna is kind of in that position. Am I saying that Gunna snitched? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that he's in a position that me as an investigator would want to exploit, a prosecutor would want to exploit, and he got a strange plea deal and he got out before everyone else. Now, these are things that, could be an indication of potentially cooperating with the government, especially getting a plea deal that early on.
Hey, okay, so now I got to read to you, he didn't put this on the social media because he wasn't free yet. Ironically, news of the plea comes with a statement. So he has a statement already ready. It says, after the sentence came down, the rapper released a statement saying, while I have agreed to always be truthful, I want to make perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way. This statement makes a lot of people say, well, why the fuck how could it be in the best interest of the state if you have been denied bond 4 times and they could at least hold you until next year, which is the trial or the scheduled start date of the trial? Why give you this plea now? What do you think about this statement and that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to look at it is how does the state benefit from not gaining information from you, especially when you're in a privileged position where they can glean a lot of information, I see what he's saying, and obviously that's a smart PR move to immediately put that statement out as you're being released so that people don't assume anything. But just from my background, my training, my experience, it's very strange for him to get these benefits without necessarily giving the state something in exchange, especially when they could have said, all right, well, go pound sand, bro. We don't care. We're going to go ahead and just keep you in jail, and you're going to get hit with these charges if you don't cooperate to some degree.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but so the chat told me to scroll down a little bit, right? Okay. It says, despite saying he will not testify, it is a condition of Gunna's, I'm guessing it says trial, but I'm guessing it got to be plea because there's no trial. Yeah. A Gunna's trial that he testifies if he is called. So I'm guessing they meant plea, but he has to testify if he's called, though he can claim the Fifth Amendment. What does this say to you?
No, he can't claim the Fifth because he's not going to be charged. If he comes in, so here's the thing. So if he comes in after the fact, right, you can only invoke the Fifth if you're going to incriminate yourself. But they already got him for racketeering. So if he admits to any gang activity or anything that they already prosecuted him for and indicted him for, well,
is this a loophole though, or a gray area? Because according to this Alford plea, the defendant doesn't admit he committed the crime, but acknowledges that it's in his best interest to plead guilty, which is weird. So you're saying you're pleading guilty because it's in your best interest, but you're not saying that you did anything. So maybe the Fifth Amendment. Go ahead.
The other important thing to remember about that plea is that what they say also is that if I go to trial, I would more than likely also be found guilty by a jury.
Oh, okay.
Another part of it as well. So here's the thing. Because this is the thing about plea agreements, because I've also seen a million of these as well. Plea agreements You always have to be willing to cooperate with the government to some level, or the state, whoever the hell was prosecuting you, to some degree, and that's a whole part of the plea agreement. So if they do, let's say they do go to trial and they call Gunna to testify, he's not going to get that same Fifth Amendment privilege. Because they're going to ask him about crimes that they already charged him for in that indictment, which is racketeering activity.
Let me ask you this question, and this is definitely opinion-based. Do you think they give him this plea because, as you stated, but I believe, they want Thug, and if now they put on they already threw 2 extra charges, or two or three, even though those were minor charges on Thug's docket. If they also put into the ecosphere, well, you do know the guy who you be around a lot in the studios, and he also claims the same thing. He has taken a plea. If they stack that on top of whatever they got against Thug will basically just fold, because Thug has to know if you go to trial, they're going to call Gunna.
Yes, and that the government will absolutely use that in their back pocket and say, "Listen, bro, Gunna, we will call Gunna against you if we need to," and they will. I guarantee you, that's a part there. Well, you already read it in the plea agreement. Every plea agreement, it's standard plea agreement language. Is you have a part of this plea agreement is, yes, you're getting less time, blah blah blah, but you need to be available if we call you to trial as a witness, and he's not going to get no Fifth Amendment privileges.
That's interesting, because I remember and you obviously covered this whole case too, with the Tekashi 6ix9ine and like the whole 9 Trey guys. What really started setting the motion up for everybody to take pleas was when they knew Tekashi was definitely going to be a federal witness. And it's like everyone started thinking, hey, are you sure that if you go to trial and this guy got to sit up there and talk about his experience intimately with you, and if he's ever seen you do any crime, talk about any crime this and third, are you sure you could still beat the United States government and everybody but the kidnappers, who clearly weren't aligned with 6ix9ine from the get-go? Everybody took a plea, including Shotty.
Yep, and the other thing too, so let me let y'all know how the discovery process works, okay? Because I've been the agent that turns evidence over, right, during the process. After you indict someone, right, which is a formal charge by a grand jury, whether it's state or federal, you give all the information that you have to the prosecutor. The prosecutor begins the discovery process, where the prosecutor starts giving over all the evidence that you gather as the investigator to the defense. Now, don't forget, guys, as they're in jail, as they're in prison, the agent is still working, gathering evidence. So this discovery process is still fluid to some degree. You're collecting jail calls, you're still debriefing witnesses, you're talking to informants, so you're still developing evidence as the investigation is going, even after indictment sometimes. So what happens is the defense doesn't always have every single thing that the prosecution has. So what more than likely happened is, they saw, okay, Tekashi is going to cooperate. Cool. And then they started getting those downloads from Tekashi's phone. Then they started getting some of the stuff that Tekashi said to the prosecution and to the agents. Then as time got closer and closer to trial, that's when they got to start deciding, all right, am I going to go to trial, or am I going to just take the plea? So in Young Thug's case, right, it's a state. The state works way slower than the feds do. Okay, they're almost always, that's why you guys look at someone like YNW Melly, who's been in prison since damn near 2018, 2019, and they still haven't went to trial. The state takes their time a lot of the times and is very behind, especially states like Georgia, Florida, Texas, notorious for taking forever to go to trial. So I guarantee you that Young Thug's defense probably doesn't have everything yet, and the state is still gathering evidence, because from when I read that indictment, it's very apparent to me that they had what you call Title III intercepts, which is when you're listening to someone actively on a phone line, or you're bugging him and listening to them speak real time. So that type of evidence, right, to disclose all of that, to go through all of it, etc., is very time consuming. So
hey, I got some new information also to add. Chat, thank you for reminding me. I didn't scroll all the way down. Look, apparently, okay. They says Gunna also attested in the plea deal that he was in a car with Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, when officers pulled them over and found hydrocodone, methamphetamines, and a firearm inside. Which, by the way, they're definitely going to try to use and squeeze Thug. You could tell, because again, if they're giving him the slap on the wrist, they got to give somebody the DDT. It's according to the plea agreement, Gunna claimed the gun and drugs weren't his, but according to the police narrative, there's only one person in the car.
Yeah. See?
Okay, explain that to me. because hey, this might be really disguised. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm only taking a plea for me, but I'll sign off saying that gun was not mine though. But it's only two of y'all in the car.
Yeah, and this is where cases can get complex, right? When you have informants, when you got people that are cooperating or whatever, sometimes, to get things done in a certain way where the defendant or the cooperator, right, isn't necessarily implicated, you have to write things or proposition things in a certain way that doesn't make it obvious that the individual that's cooperating is actually cooperating, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll tell y'all from my personal experience when I had informants and cooperators, etc.
Wait, hold on. Just to give the audience context,
sure.
You have worked with people who have been, knowingly cooperating with the U.S. government to obviously try to get either lesser time or try to avoid whatever. So these individuals, and you've been in the trenches. I'm just trying to establish that for the audience.
I'll put it this way. There was a time when I had 10 plus confidential informants and or cooperators working for me.
Holy shit. Holy
so,
shit.
There's no one else that could talk about this in a more educated fashion. When I would write my report.
Hey, Chad, Fed 1811, man. Y'all got to go check my mans out, man. Listen, I think when it comes to the hip hop space, I go pretty in depth, but obviously there's still another depth that could be done that someone like me won't go. And also sometimes I'm only caring about hip hop cases. But if you think about shit, I had a great time watching your whole Jeffrey Dahmer breakdown. I think you do a great job outside the scope of that. So you guys go check him out if you really want in depth. Apparently your true crime is a real thing, man. I ain't gonna lie, I might have to launch a true crime fucking channel recently.
Love it.
But anyway, yeah, okay. Not to cut you off, but just to give a random plug. Okay, so you've worked with all type of people who have cooperated. How does this sound though? So in the plea, he's saying it's not mine, but let me read it again. Gunna also attested in the plea deal that he was in the car with Young Thug. So he says he's marking the time. I'm in the car with Thug.
Yeah.
When police pulled him over and found hydrocodone, methamphetamine, and a firearm inside, and according to the plea deal, Gunna claimed that the gun and drugs were not his. It's unclear if anyone else was in the car at the time.
So when you have informants, cooperating defendants, sources of information, and I could break down the difference between each if you care, but I'll put it this way, as someone that controlled all different types of informants at different levels, right? It's your job as the investigator to protect your guy from looking like he cooperated, especially if he's a part of a criminal organization where retaliation is almost inevitable. Okay.
Oh, so that's the thing. So it is a thing to try to make the person who is helping the investigation not look like a snitch, quote unquote.
Here, I'll give an example right now, a real-time example. Let's say, right, I get information from a source that there's 10 kilos of cocaine in a car.
Yeah.
And it's traveling on Interstate 95.
Yeah.
Right? But then I also find out through maybe a good Samaritan that there's this drugs in this car. Maybe not to the same level of detail, but I also get information that there's drugs in this vehicle going on this highway at this time. What I do, right, as the investigator, as I call the highway patrol and I tell them, hey, listen, this car right here, I got some reliable information that the car has dope in it. But, big but, I need you to develop your own probable cause, stop that vehicle, and do a search. So the trooper sees the car, he stops it, maybe for a broken taillight, maybe for a license plate not matching or some other reason, right? There's a reason why it's easy for them to pull you over. He pulls him over with his own probable cause, of course, and then through the course of the investigation,
and he doesn't state any of the intel you've given him.
Hell no, he doesn't. So he goes ahead and he does that, right? He's, do you mind if I can search the car? Gets consent, searches the car, finds the drugs. Bam. I've effectively protected my informant now, or my source, or whoever it is, in that seizure, because now it looks like it was a traffic stop. Of course, when I write up my report, I have to disclose, I received information, blah, 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 but I don't have to necessarily go in detail because it was independently corroborated through the stop. Does that make sense? So that's one way to insulate a source. That's an example.
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Jesus. Okay. All right. Wow. Apparently, which also I didn't read, they said alleged YSL co-founder, which this is odd, Walter Murphy also negotiated a plea deal in the indictment on Tuesday, according to his lawyer, Jacoby Hudson. By the way, there's a lot of people who kept talking about trial. I said, ain't no possible fucking way we'll ever see no RICO case go to a actual jury trial for the majority of the people. Maybe one or two brazen people take it there, but no. Everybody's going to plea out. And if we're seeing a co-founder plea out, obviously you have to think about this. One of Young Thug and even Gunna's like major their arguments was that, YSL's not a gang, it's only a record label. Well, now a co-founder of the gang component is negotiating a plea. He's pretty much corroborating the fact that it's a gang.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Whenever people say, it's not a gang, that doesn't work. All they have to do is prove that you guys are committing some type of crime for the betterment of the organization. That's all they got to prove when it comes to racketeering, essentially. Right? And the fact that they have the branding, the memorabilia, all this other stuff, right? Like, I mean, hell, when I looked at the indictment, I went ahead and I pulled like the music video clips that they were using as evidence. Bro, them just having on like YSL chains with a snake on it was considered evidence because they were able to tie the snakes back to what? The Bloods. That was their fuck up, bro. If you're a part of a national gang, GD, Blood, Crip, any of these like big gangs, Lion King, whatever, and they're able to tie it back to that, you're done. It doesn't matter what the fuck you think. You say slime or any of this other stuff. They were always able to tie it back to the Bloods, which automatically is considered a national gang. Done. The racketeering all day. Easy.
Oh my God. So it is in your belief, and partially, I think, definitely in my belief, but I think the majority of people have said, hey, listen, this case is to catch a few people and put them away. And I'm wondering what time they'll look. So if Gunna got 6-7 months, I'm wondering how serious the state is about their case, because federally, Casanova is being, they're actually suggesting 20 years. The prosecutors recommended 20 years.
Yep.
Okay.
I called it. I called it that he was gonna get a significant amount of time.
And he took a plea.
Yes.
He took a plea. If you took a plea and they're recommending 20, if you had blue trial, they're gonna give you, I don't even want to know the number.
Yeah, if you go to trial on a racketeering case and you lose, bro, you're doing 30 plus, 30 minimum, 30 plus. And if you killed someone, or you like did something serious in the racketeering, you're gonna get hit with even more time. Like you don't want to go ahead and fight a RICO federal case. It's a L. I mean, I called it that Cass was gonna lose. Like he was gonna have to plead or he was gonna die in prison, one of the two. And the thing that messes up Cass is that his criminal history is fucked up. He has felony convictions for robbery. So that automatically brought up his points. It's a point system in the feds based on other crimes he's been convicted of.
Here's another interesting part about this thing. It says, listen, Hudson, who they claim is a one of the bigwigs in the YSL organization, they said, well, no, not Hudson. I mean Murphy, right? He's a co-founder, Walter Murphy. They said Hudson. I guess he's probably his lawyer. Okay, that's his lawyer. Hudson says Murphy has already been released and will not testify about the conduct of other individuals. Hudson says the ways Murphy has changed his life after he got out of prison was a major factor in the deal. How does a co-founder of a criminal gang allegedly responsible for a bunch of murders get out, and they're saying that, oh, he's been out and he changed his life? Something like, who are they? Obviously, we agree that they're trying to get Thug, but is this really all about Thug?
Yeah, I think Thug is who they're going after. And the other thing too, I want to also bring to everyone's attention that I haven't seen enough people talk about with the YSL situation is that there's wiretaps on this case, guys. The fact that they have wiretaps is a big problem for the organization, and the reason why I say that is because I've done wiretaps myself. I've been Affian on wiretaps, and they're not easy to get, guys. All right, they're extremely difficult to get. You need to be able to establish through probable cause and an affidavit, which is typically lengthy. I remember when I did mine, it was about 75 pages. You need to articulate, number one, why the person is a criminal. Number two, why you need to listen to their phone. And then number three, you need to prove that they're talking to other criminals about criminal activity on that particular device.
Holy shit. I know what the chat keep, because every time I read something, they're like, no, it's not that. I figured it out, Chad. Let me read this to you. Let me read.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna read the sentence before. I'll read two sentences before. Gunna says he cherishes his association with YSL Music and always will. During Gunna's court appearance Wednesday, the judge read out stipulations of the plea agreement that Gunna then responded to. The rapper swore that he has personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang, but seemed to distance himself from YSL the gang versus YSL the label.
Yeah.
No, hold on. I gotta read this one more time.
And that's a part of the plea agreement too. Most plea agreements say that you can't talk to your co-defendant and or associate with them.
Hold on. No way. No. Chat, y'all know what I'm about to play. Hold on, chat. Hold on.
I fell down to my knees when the law came.
No way. Hold on. I got to read this again. The rapper, hold on. Myron, I need you to take this in with me. The rapper swore he has personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes.
Yeah.
yo. You know the ill thing about my Myron? He's like so not shocked because he's just dealt with it so much. Nah, bro, we listen to these people's music like, bruh, what do you mean he says he has, what does he mean he has personal knowledge? He swore. What could this mean? He has personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang, but he's distancing himself from YSL the gang versus YSL the label.
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, I'm not surprised because when you're looking at those kinds of numbers, man, and you're a music artist and you got money, you got a life to live outside of this shit, man, bro. I've seen the toughest guys.
Wait, hold on.
Man.
Yo, chat. Why did y'all tell me I'm not reading this thing completely? This is what he said. I recognize and I deeply regret that my talent in music indirectly furthered YSL the gang to the detriment of my community. Gunna acknowledged and signed statement. He also said YSL as a gang must end.
Holy.
No Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking. Wait, hold up. Yeah, Myron.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Break it down. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean,
but if you want a link, I'll send you a link that you can see this.
No, I'm reading it on your. I'm actually reading it on your thing right now, so I'm reading it myself. And yo, here's the thing with plea agreements, bro. You almost this is how plea agreements go. What the crime is, admitting to the crime, admitting your wrongdoings, right, and then being able to cooperate in the future. That's like the basic structure of any type of plea agreement. Because keep in mind that the defendant is receiving almost all the benefit most of the time in exchange for some type of cooperation or whatever, and or acknowledgement of criminal activity. Him saying that in itself, what does it do? It vilifies the gang as a gang. It proves that they are in fact a gang, even though they tried to say that they're not, despite all the snakes and the slime and the terminology and the gang phrases and the bandanas and everything else like that. And I went into detail in my breakdown on this. But yeah, man, I mean, he's going to obviously say that in a certain way, but the government's always going to have him by the balls that he has to cooperate if needed in the future. And that's probably going to be a bargaining chip for them when they go to Young Thug and say, listen, bro, hold on, go to trial because we'll call Gunna to stand.
Wait. Hold on. I'm glad you said that because I've always heard this. And you obviously working way more intimately than anyone in the community of rap or even myself could even fathom. What do you mean in the future? Like, what do you mean has him by the balls and pause on the terminology? But what do you mean has, like, again, it's only, I don't even know what to ask. What do you mean they could force him to cooperate? Like,
I got you. So basically, this is what's going to happen. At this point, it's lawyers talking to lawyers. The detectives are no longer talking to the defendants at this point, unless they want to come forward and do some type of agreement, which is called typically a proffer. But at this point, it's lawyers talking to lawyers. And what I mean by that is Young Thug's defense team is talking to the prosecution. The prosecution is going to go to Young Thug's defense team and say, listen, just so y'all know, Gunna pled guilty. And Gunna is willing to come back and cooperate if we need him to, should you guys go to trial. We already know what Thug has done based on discussions with Gunna. So they're probably going to go ahead and let Young Thug's team know that if you go to trial, you're going to probably take an L because we basically got one of your top guys to cooperate with us. Because if you take a plea deal, bro, you got to cooperate to some degree.
I fell down to my knees with yo, Myra, you breaking our hearts. No, keep going though, keep going. I had to play that sound effect. No. Hold on. Listen. We in hip hop love to be delusional, especially about the people we love. If we don't like you, it's whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Is it just possible that like, you know what I mean? They're just letting him out because they just realize he just has nothing to do with nothing, and they realize maybe they made a mistake.
Well, if that was the case, then Gunna would have fought it. He has a good legal team, and he has the money to have that legal team fight.
Okay, so I'm playing devil's advocate. Well, maybe fighting the case is going to land him in jail. He's not getting out on bond. 4 attempts, no bail. He's going to have to sit in jail for at least a year to maybe a year and a half just to fight it. It's easier just to say, hey, listen, we do some no harm, no foul shit. And I just take time served and basically go on glorified probation. Obviously, it's a 4-year suspended, but still. And I won't tell. I'm not, no telling. There's no telling happening. I'm a gangster. I'm a street nigga. Like, come on, no telling. Can't be no telling.
Well, I'm willing to bet that he gave some sort of information for them to even entertain giving him this plea deal. And then I think the biggest thing is they're going to use. Well,
you're right. We ready. He said I was in the car with a dude.
Trial, you're going to take an L.
Well, you're right. We read it. He said I was in the car with a dude and none of the guns. Like, that's obviously saying, hey, listen, I'm giving a sworn statement, whether I'm on a stand or not, saying that those weapons that you're trying to charge whoever in the car for is definitely not mine.
Because if the state's case was weak, he would have just said, fuck that, I'm going to fight it. It would have been better in his public. It would have been better for him from a public interest standpoint. It would have been better for him for his music career. He would have been better off just fighting it if the charges from the state were that weak. However, they weren't, which is why he took the plea deal in the first place. And whenever you take a plea deal, it's written and etched into the plea deal, virtually state, federal, whatever it is, that you will cooperate with the government should they need you to. So in this case, Young Thug has some good lawyers. He has a very good legal team. And the state is a little bit finicky about it. So what are they going to do? Okay, the best way that we're going to be able to combat Young Thug, his defense team, is we need more and more cooperators against them. Because the thing is this, whenever you have a racketeering case or you have multiple conspirators, the problem is that each conspirator is a criminal. So inherently their testimony is tainted because they're a criminal. They're not deemed trustworthy. However, if you got 5, 10, 20 co-conspirators saying the same shit about the top guy. Well, all of a sudden now, that testimony becomes more and more valid because it's being independently corroborated through different individuals. And then each person, right, depending on their hierarchy in the criminal organization, their testimony matters more or less. Someone like Gunna, higher up in the organization, their testimony is going to mean quite a bit. So I would say this was a chess move from the prosecution to secure Gunna's cooperation in the future should they need to go to trial against Young Thug, who they have the overwhelming amount of evidence against and they're trying to go after. And the thing I was trying to say before was why YSL should be really concerned, which is probably why Gunna didn't want to go ahead and fight this thing, is because they have wiretaps. Anytime you have wiretaps...
Wait, hold on real quick.
Go ahead.
Let me read the full statement. So we're reading the article that was there by, so someone from WSB TV was in court. So they know exactly what Gunna had to, on the record, basically acknowledge in front of a judge according to the plea. So that's what they wrote in their article. But Gunna, that's why I said this is kind of odd. Gunna dropped a statement immediately when this came out. You want me to read you Gunna's statement?
Hey, go ahead.
Listen to this, because right now it's playing on the Shade Room. Like, oh man, he definitely, he just got a great legal team. Look, Sergio Kitchens, which is Gunna, this is his press statement. He said, when I became affiliated with YSL in 2016, I did not consider it as a gang, more like a group of people from Metro Atlanta who had a common interest and artistic aspirations. My focus on YSL Entertainment, rap artists who wrote and performed music that exaggerated and glorified urban life and rap community, while I've always agreed to always be truthful, which, by the way, that's him basically saying I have to tell the truth if I ever call. He never says I'm going to be called, but you know they're going to be leveraging him like we could call him. Okay, let's keep going. Yep. I want to make it perfectly clear, I have not made any statements. I have not been interviewed. I have not cooperated, and I have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way. Let me stop there before I read the last paragraph. He's saying that he has not agreed to be a part of this trial if it goes to trial, and he will not and has no intention of being involved in this trial. Do you think this is cap?
It's 1,000% cap because by virtue of him signing the plea agreement, he forfeited all that.
Oh, shit.
It's a wrap. Like, he can say all that. I haven't talked to the real thing you got to add to that when he says, I have not cooperated, I haven't testified, add the word yet to that. I have not talked to the police yet. I have not cooperated yet. I have not testified yet, because the government now reserves the right to call him and he must cooperate with the investigation, or they can reinstitute the charges. So he lost that ability to say I'm not cooperating once he signed the plea deal. It's a wrap.
Okay, let me read the last paragraph. He says, I have chosen to end my own RICO case with an Alford plea and end my personal ordeal by publicly acknowledging my association with YSL. That's so interesting because in the first paragraph, he says, I don't consider it a gang. But now he's saying, I'm acknowledging my association with YSL. Interesting. An Alford plea in my case is the entry of a guilty plea, the one that charged against me, which is in my best interest, while at the same time maintain my innocence toward the same charge. I love and cherish my association with YSL Music and always will. There's no way he could be on a label after this. Like, it's just no way. It's just no way, right? Like you agree with this, right? I look at this. Let me just read this last line and then you go. I look at this as an opportunity to give back to the community and educate young men and women that gangs and violence only lead to destruction. Go ahead, Myron.
Oh, the thing is that he forfeited that ability once he signed the plea agreement, and there's no way around it. If the government needs him, they will absolutely call him. If Young Thug or anybody else higher up in the organization decides to go to trial, they will absolutely call Gunna as a witness to some degree, and he's going to have to testify, and he's not going to be able to enjoy the privileges of the Fifth Amendment because he's not necessarily incriminating himself talking about gang activity that he's already been charged and pled guilty to a degree. So he's not going to be able to invoke the Fifth Amendment like our girl Kelsey did today because The thing is that Kelsey hasn't been charged for those crimes, so she was able to stay silent. Gunna won't have that privilege if they call him to the stand.
Wow.
Yeah, when you sign a plea agreement, the government owns you, bro. They go through it with your lawyer. They go through it with you. You sit there with your attorney. You know, you and your attorney have prepped it. Like, he knows deep down that the government owns him. Like, all these things he's saying, oh, I have not cooperated, I have not spoken to the police or whatever, I haven't testified. Just put the word "yet" at the end of it, and then you'll know the truth.
Okay. So let me ask you, and this is obviously a contextual question. But
And
given
because Gunna's going to lie in court. No, bro, because they already have all the facts. If he lies, it's the dumbest thing they could do because they already know what he did. So they're going to hit him with perjury. Sorry, what were you saying, bro? My bad.
True. So let me ask you this question. So, Gunna, at this point, do you believe that obviously people are thinking, well, because we've seen this before. If Young Thug comes down and says, nah, like, we wanted Gunna to do that, even if it is what people might think it is, there's going to be a pass that is given. Young Thug is the one who I believe is looking at least over 10 years. I would probably say close to 20. Do you think that Young Thug how do you think he will see this move? Just from a defendant point of view.
He's gonna. I mean, if I was him, I'd be looking at it like fuck. Like I'd be pissed because you don't get plea agreements unless you cooperate, typically, to some degree, especially with that amount of time shaved off.
Holy shit! By the way, I think Gunna did something amazing. He released a statement which they sent to. They probably did send to me. I gotta go check my shit. They sent a statement to the Shade Room, and they're running with the narrative. But I'm glad the chat told me to check the article because I was like, wow, this is a crazy deal. Then I look down, it says, I realize that, and I deeply regret that my talent in music furthered YSL the gang and to the detriment of my community. YSL as a gang must end. In none of his statements, he says, YSL as a gang must end.
Yeah.
No, this is wow.
It's wild, man. I mean, but yo, this is how racketeering cases go, man. I mean,
I agree. No, I'm with you. Here's the thing, though. You see, we're in hip hop, and the Tekashi 6ix9ine case was such a signifier of this is what snitching or this is what cooperation look like. I'm glad you're on here with me, right? To explain how cooperation could be masked, because we only really think cooperation when somebody's on the stand. They got like, you know what I mean? We see the music videos. The guy who's on the stand, they put like in the music videos, they put like a rat head over him and he's pointing somebody out and whatever the case is. Yeah, because that's what we only see cooperation to be. Now, again, for everybody who's watching this, I am a civilian, so I don't give a fuck if somebody did cooperate or not. But I keep saying that, unfortunately, a lot of black culture is crime culture. AJ, you were saying something? What's up?
No, I was going to say, you want to know the dirty secret when it comes to informants, bro?
Go ahead.
If you see an informant testifying in court, the agent himself fucked up more than likely. There's so many cases where informants never take the stand, and they don't even know who the cooperator was. That's when you know that you did a good case, when they don't know who the cooperator is. So for every time you might see a snitch take the stand or a cooperator take the stand, there's probably 10 other investigations where the person got indicted, charged, convicted, everything. Cooperator never took the stand. No one knows who the hell he is.
Fuck. And by the way, I agree with you. I always said if 6ix9ine case went down, right? And if Harv, because these are the kidnappers, right?
Yeah.
If Harv and I think Nuke, if they didn't take it to trial, because everybody in 6ix9ine's gang, Harv and Nuke was the people who broke apart. Like they were already like separated before the whole thing happened. If they never brought it to trial where 6ix9ine had to sit on that stand and talk, I think 6ix9ine is unaffected.
Yeah, he could have had plausible deniability because there was other informants. There were a lot of other informants in the case. For example, his driver,
bro. bro, he would have hit everybody with the oh, hey, listen, I didn't snitch on nobody. I just took a plea and admitted my wrongs.
Yeah.
Right? Which really admit your wrongs is like, yeah, of course I saw the shooting. Him was there. Yeah, I didn't do it. Like, again, you're kind of telling me, you're like, oh no, I'm just admitting my truth. I'm admitting what I was involved in. But aggressively, people only think that telling is pointing out people don't understand.
Well, let me tell you this too, Act. The thing is, right? So the thing with trial is that at trial, everything comes to light. Everything, right? So informants a lot of the time got to come to light. Any type of sources you may have, because at trial, that's it. Like, everything's out there, right? So the other thing too that Gunna's probably banking on and hoping is that everybody else at YSL takes a plea as well. Now, what I was saying before, which is why I think, Young Thug would be foolish to take this thing to trial, right? Besides the fact that Gunna just pled out, which means that he's basically in the chamber for the prosecution. The other reason too that no one has really talked about enough is that there's wiretaps on this case. For you to be able to get a wiretap on someone means you had to have an informant by default, because you need to be able to call the individual, establish that their phone is used for criminal activity, and once you establish that phone is used in criminal activity, then you go ahead and start listening to it. But you can only do that. We call it a dirty phone call, a dirty call in the government, right, or in law enforcement. The only way you could get a dirty call is you need someone close to the organization to make the dirty call and call the individual, and then also talk about criminal activity on the phone. And you need to be able to identify other conspirators that using that telephone number to contact the individual for criminal activity. So anytime you're listening to wiretaps or wiretaps are involved in an investigation, I know for a fact there were informants involved, because you can't get the dirty call unless you have one. So that's another thing also that YSL needs to keep in mind, is that, or well, the audience needs to keep in mind, excuse me, YSL definitely knows this shit, is that they have wire intercepts on this case.
No, well, everyone was already like caught up on these lyrics, right? And you've covered this, Remember everyone would say, "Oh, this is a lyrics case."
Yeah, fuck the lyrics, bro. I read the lyrics are one thing, right? The only reason they used the lyrics was to establish that these guys are actually a gang, right? So they showed pictures of them with the snakes. They showed pictures and images of them using the slime term. They used pictures and images of them with red bandanas and the killing of that guy Peanut, who was a Blood gang member. And they showed all this stuff to show that these guys are the Bloods, which is a national gang, which automatically makes it racketeering. That's why they use the lyrics mostly. But what I'm more concerned with, if you look down later on in the indictment, is they say we received communication, right? They did everything in their power to not say wire communications, because that would make it too obvious that it was wiretaps. But from me reading it from from an investigator's perspective, I was like, yo, these guys have recordings, which means one of two things: either it's real time wiretaps, which is what I think it is, or worse yet, someone wearing a wire. So either way, there's informants involved from the beginning, which allowed them to even be able to build up this investigation. And not only is it informants, it's informants close to them, because they had Young Thug on the phone talking about, oh, we need to kill this guy or whatever, and they're able to basically show that he was ordering hits. Wow. That's what I would be worried about if I was YSL. They actually have oral communication captured on wire. Pause.
No, this is ridiculous. And by the way, chat, we're still waiting on another update. This is ridiculous. This is probably one of the most explosive days in getting actual news that matter. We're listening to Kelsey take the stand. We haven't heard that she's completed her cross, or if there's a breakthrough the cross. We're waiting on an update from that. But Gunna has been released from jail, while Young Thug has been getting hit with more charges, and everyone's wondering how this guy happened. So again, I'm glad to have Myron on here, especially for a day like today, because all this is all criminal. This is court shit. Like, this is not just about, oh, do you like someone's song? This is court shit. You feel me? And, yeah. Yo, chat, I'm going to post this to my Instagram now. I noticed, I think they sent out, and I love Gunna's music too, so please don't take this as me trying to make him look anyway, but I'm posting the rest of that article. More details on Gunna's plea. Listen, I don't know if he told, and I don't think even Myron here is willing to say he knows definitively if he's going to be telling. But
I can't say 100% that he told, but from him getting this strange plea deal, an Alfred plea is not common. but the severity of the case, him being let go with basically a slap on the wrist, him not being able to make bond before, 4 times getting denied, now all of a sudden getting this plea deal, it's way too many. And then his strange, statements in court saying, "Oh yeah, YSL as a gang needs to end," etc. All this stuff,
Right,
bro. Yeah, he signed a plea deal. When you sign a plea deal, you have to cooperate with the state. It might not be today, but you're gonna have to at some point if they need you to.
Jesus Christ. Somebody told me Milagros tweeted, so it's probably bringing us back to the Tory case. I'm telling you, this YSL situation, and I know you're going to do your own videos about it and all whatever. Somebody says, okay, this is Milagros. She tweeted, and she's in court. She said, I hope you guys can see this. She says,